Hey everyone, so today I'm going to go over my Ultimate Lepic build. Um, kind of different from what I've seen other people do, where I'm not totally focused on bossing. Yes, he's primarily for bossing, but I wanted to be an effective mobber as well with him. So he's got, a setup for bossing and a setup for mobbing, and I thought I'd, go into that. So, taking a look here, starting off, I just wanted to do kind of a overview of Lepic. Um, so, looking at his abilities here, his first one is a grenade. Pretty simple. You just throw it. It gives off some burst damage. Um, has a little blast radius laid out there in the range. Um, Average cooldown of 6 seconds. His 2 overclock does a couple things. So it applies burn to whatever is hit. So if you use overclock, throw a grenade, enemies hit by the grenade will have burn inflicted. And it also provides a skill power modifier increase of 20% there. His 3 is a traction grenade, which is probably like my favorite thing about Lepic. And then set up, in my mobbing build, it's primarily what I use. So pretty much all it does is you throw it out and it kind of just sucks all the enemies into it. It doesn't do any damage, but it keeps them from attacking and going towards an objective if you're doing one of the defend operations. It's kind of awesome. And then looking over at his 4, this is Lepic's real moneymaker. So this is an ability that turns your arm into a grenade launcher, dealing out some pretty crazy burst damage and then continuous damage as well. So yeah, those are his 4 abilities. If you don't have a skill module on here, his passive is kind of useful, but not really that great. So basically, if you're about to die, it keeps you alive and then gives you some health recovery. But the cooldown on it is kind of ridiculous, like 10 minutes as it comes. So it's really only useful like once. It'll save your ass in the middle of a firefight or something, if you're up against a colossi about to go down. But it's kind of a one and done thing. So that's why I don't use it, and I just rock Firearm Master because it is effective for both bossing and mobbing. So going into the bossing setup I've got here, like everyone else, this is focused on crit hit, crit damage, and skill power. But I also have a quality of life here in the form of Battle of Stamina. So that's going to give me significantly more HP so that I'm not 100% glass cannon material. I can take a little bit of fire before going down, which is nice because you don't want your team to have to be reviving you, every 20-30 seconds because you don't have any HP and you're waiting for your 4 to cool down. So that's really nice to have for a good balanced Ultimate Lepic build. But then everything else here is focused on skill power, skill crit hit rate, and skill crit hit damage. We've got like one MP adjuster to give you a little bit more MP, which is good when you're using the 4. It lets you get off 1 or 2 more shots, but really is not crazy essential. And then a very important one to have here is Dangerous Ambush. This is critical if you're going to be going up against colossi with a team or bosses, mission bosses. If the enemy is not looking at you, shooting at you, targeting you, you get 25% additional skill power. And if they're down, like someone breaks their armor and they go down, you get 50% skill power modifier, which is kind of ridiculous, stacked into everything else. Some of his other transcendence that I really haven't used, the only one that I've kind of used is the power unit charge, which changes your overclock to increase firearm attack instead of skill power. It does give you like a pretty significant firearm damage increase, but I just really don't feel like it's worth it. Firearm attack increase of 52% for like 8.3 seconds, which I guess that would be nice if you were running with like an Enzo who could also buff your firearm attack, but it's something that you can only use for 8.3 seconds and has a cooldown of 20 seconds, so not really great. And I mostly use Lepic for bossing, so it doesn't really help me that much. So I just run Firearm Master. You also have increased efficiency, so MP is no longer consumed while your grenade launcher is active, so you can kind of keep it up as long as you want. Your MP doesn't go away and there's not a countdown. It only consumes MP when you're actually shooting it, and then you can recover MP when you land a crit hit. But, you know, there's always a downside. It significantly reduces your burst damage, doesn't do any continuous damage, in an effort to increase efficiency, I guess. So I don't really use it. Explosive stacks, you can build up 3 grenades and throw 3 grenades at a time. And every time you shoot 22 rounds, you get an additional grenade. Kind of worthless, considering you have things like Firearm Master, but it is what it is. And then regenerative braking, chance to recover MP when using skill. Still doesn't compare to Firearm Master, so I really haven't used it. Throw this back on here. So this is my bossing setup. Take a look at the mobbing setup. We still have a lot of skill power modifiers here. We have Battle of Stamina, but we are really focused on skill cooldown and skill range here. So you're probably gonna, raise your eyebrows and wonder why I have a module here that is not the same type as the socket, and that's just how this build ended up working out for me. It has everything that I want. It has crazy cooldown, crazy range, and still has a ton of skill power modifiers. They haven't all been maxed out. I could probably, assign socket type to this, max everything out, and be good. But for what I do right now, it works. So yeah, now that we've looked at that, let's go and show you how it works. One other small thing I guess we can look into is the firearm. It doesn't really matter what firearm you use. I use Thunder Cage because it's kind of like a good all-around firearm. But you want to make sure that you have a couple modules if you're using Ultimate Lepic. You want to have fire rate up and sharp precision shot. So these are going to increase the rate of fire on your 4. Specifically, sharp precision shot will significantly increase the rate of fire towards the end of your 4. So that's a really important one to have. Otherwise, you're losing out on like 4 or 5 grenades if you just run without it. Yes, it does reduce your rate of fire, but that's why you have, fire rate up here to kind of balance it out. And then it still increases the rate of fire of your firearm itself. Okay, so did a lot of talking. Let's see how this works. So when you're using your 4 here, what you're going to want to do is start by hitting your overclock and then wait for your little MP bar to fill up. When you hit your 4, you're going to want to roll so that you can activate it right away instead of waiting for the animation to go through, which takes some time. So what we're going to do is hit the 4, roll, and then hold down the trigger, and you'll see here that the rate of fire will slowly start to increase. to the point where it actually gets pretty fast. And I think you can do probably 12 or 13 grenades with that setup, which is very impressive. Go over here and refill, and then switch over to his mobbing setup that I have. And like I said, this is focused on cooldown and range. So I'm going to want to utilize that Transcendent Module Firearm Mastery here and shoot and reload. And you can see there, right, to the left of my Descendant, there's that little timer, and that's the amount of time you have left on your modifiers for this module. So there is no cooldown. You can just shoot and reload and shoot and reload and keep it active, 100% of the time. But the reason I'm using this is for the range modifier. So I'm going to use my little traction grenade here, and you'll be able to see that with this setup it has a pretty ridiculous range, but it also has a pretty crazy cooldown too. You can pretty much throw it the second it's done and just keep the enemies trapped and away from whatever objective you're trying to defend, or keep them away from your teammates if someone has to revive someone else. It's very useful for that. But with this mobbing setup, the cooldown also goes into your grenades as well. So your grenades, I think, are on like a 1.4 second cooldown, which basically means you can just throw them as often as you want and not have to worry about cooldown. And with the skill power modifiers that I put on this build, it still has a ton of damage with your grenade. So you're not going to be worried about that. You can do any of the defend operations, pull in your little group with the traction grenade, hit him with your regular grenade, and most of the time it'll kill all of them. And then that kind of goes into some of the components that you use with Lepic or Ultimate Lepic. So the reactor you should be using is the Burning Mechanics reactor. Obviously set up with whatever firearm you're going to be running as primary. I have Thunder Cage here. And then you're going to want a decent crit hit damage modifier. I got really lucky on this one, got a 32.5% increase. So I just kind of kept this. HP heal modifier is okay. I guess it works with my Battle of Stamina, but it's not really that important for me. And then the other set you're going to want for your external components is the Slayer set. Everyone uses this with Lepic, and there's a good reason for it. It's pretty crazy. Skill power increase of 26.1% when you have all four. And then when you're using your traction grenade and defeating enemies that are being pulled into it, you have a chance to recover MP by doing that. So if you are mobbing and you pull in a group into your traction grenade, throw your regular grenade, kill everyone, you will typically get all of that MP back. So you can just kind of spam that combo forever, which is pretty great. Looking at some of his overall stats here, we can see you're not really going to focus on firearm attack, but for the mobbing setup here, skill cooldown, crit hit still there, crit hit rate still there, skill power, tech and fire for the grenades, of course, they're both going to be fire and tech. So yeah, that is pretty much it for my Ultimate Lepic build. I didn't want to build him to be solely focused on just bossing. I felt like that was a waste of time to put all those hours into that singular task. So I kind of thought I found a nice balanced build here so that I can have him for bossing primarily, but then be able to go into pretty much any mission and provide good mobbing support. And then this is also really nice, like if you don't have a ton of time to commit to getting like multiple descendants fully maxed out, like if you don't have the time to max out your bossing Lepic, and then you don't have time to max out a mobbing Bunny as well. This is kind of a good combination. I know Bunny can be okay for bossing as well. She's mostly going to be a mobber. But I think this is a pretty good balance. If you only have time to commit to like one descendant, I think this is a pretty good compromise. You're still going to get like the top tier, S tier bosser, but you can also do some like A tier mobbing, I would say. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be enough to get the job done. You're going to be able to save your teammates in a sticky situation with that traction grenade, pull people away, get them off the objective, which is pretty important in some of the defend operations. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If I think of anything else or make any changes, I'll upload a new video. This is really my first in-depth YouTube upload, so thank you for sticking around to the end if you did. Please leave any comments with suggestions on what I should change. I just did this as like one run straight through, so I'm sure there's going to be some hiccups, but again, thanks for watching, and I hope this helps.